as I kind of teased you with at your lesson. I took a picture of that one piece that's in the book, that I think it's orange. And we're going to work a little bit on learning that folk song early one morning. So I am going to pull it up here on my phone. And one of the tools that I really want to be able to give you as a pianist is, what would you do if you're going to sit down and look at a piece of music and try to figure out how you're going to play it? My goal is to work myself out of a job so that you have enough tools in your musical toolbox that you can sit down, figure out how to play a piece, and then work it to a point where you feel like it's pretty decent. It may not be at performance level, but you feel satisfied that it sounds the way you'd like it to sound. So I think early one morning would be a nice test for that for you, because you already kind of know the melody we talked about. So what I'd like you to do is think about, okay, how would I go about learning this piece? And part of what we learn to do is look at music. Sometimes I'll ask you these questions in your lesson, and part of the reason I'm asking you that is so that you start to get to a place where you know what questions to ask yourself, like have a little conversation with yourself when you're sitting down to learn a new piece. Sometimes we need to learn the hands together because of the way the melody sort of goes between both hands. And you probably remember back when we started, a lot of your melodies were, before you did chordal things, a lot of your melodies kind of went back and forth between the right and the left hand. And even sometimes in more complicated pieces, it does pay to learn the hands together. Now, I can look at this piece and say, boy, it looks like my left hand is just kind of doing chords. So I don't really think that to get a good start on this piece, I would need to do the left hand right away. So what I think, looking at it, it looks like my right hand is going to be singing the melody. And my first job would be to try to figure out the right hand melody and what are the fingerings that are going with that. Because remember, fingerings are all about where you're going. And we're getting to the point where we're learning how to mark some of those fingerings so that we're aware that, oh, a change has taken place. Normally what happens is we put a circle around it, and that alerts us to say, oh, something's happened. Like, I would probably take out my pencil if I were you, and I noticed that between the end of measure 1, you end on a G, and measure 2, you play another G, but did you notice that the fingers change there? So I would circle that 1 at the beginning of the next measure so that it's a clue to me that something different is happening. And you probably notice that when we're in a lesson together, I'll try to go through and make sure that your fingerings look like they're marked, or we put in some more numbers that are going to make it easier for you to play. Let's see how the rest of them are going. Notice you're going to probably in measure 3 circle the 3 finger because it's crossing over like if you were doing a scale. The next line is the same. So I think the first 2 lines you should not have any trouble with the fingerings. You end with a 3 on G, and it looks like your 2 needs to lift and go to A. Exactly same thing, only soft. And now in my head I know this song and I'm going da 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 da, and I'm saying, I think my fingers are going to have to be moving to make me do that big of a spread. So sure enough, I look and I have to make a third with 1, 2, 3, 5. But that should hopefully ring a bell to you because we've just done this in your book. And that is a 1 octave arpeggio, isn't it? And you're already familiar with the fingering of that. So as you kind of do some analyzing when you first start the piece, because I'm trying to model for you how I would analyze it before I got ready to play it. There I'm going to say, oh, I'm just doing my 1 octave arpeggio for the G scale. And hopefully you notice that that is a G major scale. And then they just have you do a little turn, one of those where your thumb is going to stay on your tonic, you're going to cross over, play the leading tone, and then come back to your tonic. So actually I don't really see problems in your right hand at all. I think it should, if you follow the fingerings the way they've got them, I think it should be good for you. You might want to make sure that you mark your F sharps, unless you're starting to feel a little more confident reading in the key of G, and you're just knowing that the F's are going to be sharp. But if you give it a run through without marking and you notice that some things sound a little sour, probably you need to mark your sharps still. We do finally get where we grow out of that, but even really in harder pieces, I still mark my sharps, so, or flats, whatever. Pay attention to the fingering in the left hand, because you have, we want that kind of connected sound. So that means you really need to start on your 5 and 3 and then work your way up. You're going to have to do a lift. And I can't tell for sure if that's a 1 and a 5. It looks like it is. You make a 6 and then a 5th. You utilize your little 8th rest there to lift your hand and get back into the same position. Because normally if we play the same notes like we are in the first line and the second line in the left hand, we always want to try to use the same fingering, because our fingers are pretty smart. If we end up giving them the same fingering, they will play well for us. So, and you have the 6th again. Oh, let's see. This is the 6th, and then a 5th. This is where it's going to be a little different, but you're going to have to lift. So that gives you a start. There's nothing on there that says you have to play the hands together anytime in the near future. So if you start this piece this week, and all you can get done is the melody, well, that's good. I think you might be able to add some, because of the way you've been working on some of these pieces in this book. I think you really could probably get the hands together on this. The jumping down from here to the 6th might be a little problematic, but I think you can, working on the geography, don't ask yourself to go the moderato that's marked 80 to 88. You don't need to do that yet. You're just learning the piece. So in your reading music toolbox, hopefully you've learned from this that we don't have to start with the whole piece right away. We usually will start it with the melody, because we want to know what we're listening for. If our melody is getting covered up by the rest of what we're playing, we're not doing a very musical job. So we always need to know where the melody is. And that's why on this one particularly, I know you know the melody already in your head. So let's start with the melody, and there's nothing on here that says we have to add the chords right away. So hopefully that gives you a good start on how to try early one morning. I have a feeling you won't have any questions, but as I said in the other videos, if anything pops up and you feel like you need to text me and ask me something, do. If for some reason, and I can't really see that happening with this piece because it's not too advanced for you, but if ever it feels too overwhelming and you just can't figure it out and you'd really rather wait till your lesson, you are free to do that. So keep working on the things that we had just started. I didn't start anything terribly new, I don't think, because I knew you were going on vacation, but see if you can remember, pick up what we were doing before. If I remember correctly, I think we were in the D major unit too, but we're trying to work on these 1-octave arpeggios, which is one of the skills I really need you to try to get comfortable with before we keep moving ahead. So, all right, there you have it, early one morning, and I will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.